Okay, as you guys are zoomed in on the intermittent roller, you can actually see that when I'm spinning the motor, that it is going to spin and stop, and it spins and stops on every single frame of film. Now, just to show you as a frame of reference, I'm continuously spinning the motor, and if you look at this top roller up here, this top roller is continuously spinning, but if we go back down to the intermittent stops on every single frame. So, it's called advancing the film. When you're threading the projector, you're going to spin... Alright. You're going to spin this sprocket back here via the motor, and you're going to spin it until it stops. And it just had one of its little brakes, so it stopped. And so I'm going to stop spinning the motor, and then we can start opening up the gates and threading. Okay, and just like as I showed you guys in the cleaning videos, there are 5 gates to the projector itself. You have gate number 1, gate number 2, this just spins to open up this giant, like where the skis are and the tension bands are, as you guys saw in my cleaning videos. There's gate 3, where the intermittent is, gate 4, which goes down to the regular sound, and then gate 5, which then goes down into the failsafe for the projector side. So then what we'll do is we'll take our film. I've previously drawn on the frame lines because it's easier to thread seeing the clear film. As you can see, I mean, it's clear. It's easier to thread with the clear film than it would be to thread with this black film. I mean, it's not black, you can see the film, like the pictures through it, but it's just a lot more difficult. So what we'll do is we'll take the film, and as I also showed you guys during the building videos, is that the sound is the sound side with the squigglies on it, as you guys can see here, and also represented here with the solid bar. So you're going to want the sound towards you when you're threading. Now the reason being for that is because the sound unit down here, or the sound head itself, the laser to read the sound is towards you. When you put the film in there, it's towards you, it's not towards the other side. So if you put the film in backwards, there's just going to be no sound that's played, and then you're going to have to stop and rethread your projector. So to get started, we're going to thread it through, and you're going to want to go underneath. You're going to want to go underneath this sprocket right here, and you can actually feel the teeth underneath there, underneath that sprocket. But you're going to go underneath this sprocket, making sure that you can feel the teeth in it, and you're going to go over the keeper. You're going to also, while holding it up here, you're just going to gently slide it through so that it's right. Now you can see right here up top that it is crooked. So you're just going to weasel it in there and just kind of jostle it around until it actually holds itself. When you're down here, you can actually see, or if you can't see, I can feel the teeth right there. And then we will close that gate. Now that gate, closed it so that now the film is locked in there. You're not going to be able to pull that out because the teeth are holding onto the sprockets. While the film is still tight in here, all you're going to do to release this is just give it a press. And it's on a spring. This knob is on a spring. So you're going to press it, and it's just going to shoot forward, and it's going to hold the film down. You want to make sure that the film is still pulled tight. If the film was all loose in there, just, give it a little pull tight, and then press on that knob. Now, when you're doing this top one, you actually need to have a little bit of a bubble, because as you guys remember, I was showing you guys the intermittent spins, and it stops on every film. Well, if these guys are moving all the time, and that one's moving only half the time, there's going to be a lot of film that would be backed up or pulled too tight. And so you want to make sure that you have that leeway to where more film can go in without scratching these outer areas, but it's not too tight to where let's see here, it's not too tight to where if that pulls it, it's not going to just stretch the film, scratch the film, anything like that. So you're going to want to make sure that you give it a good little bubble here. The general rule is you want about 2 fingers in there. I can get both my fingers in there, meaning that it's not too big, it's not too small. If you could only stick 1 finger in there, it's too small. So, now that we've got the top gate threaded through, we've got this well, I guess the first gate threaded through, the second gate threaded through, and the third gate threaded through, we really only have 2 more gates and then the sound head to go through. This next gate, the fourth gate, is quite simple. We take our film that's already stuck up here, so we don't need to worry about holding onto that piece, and we'll just wrap it over underneath of its gate, but over top of the sprockets. Make sure that you can feel the sprockets and then lock it in. And by lock it in, I mean, if you're just tuning in, that by lock it in, I mean that you are going to be closing this gate on top of the sprockets so that the film is not going to just pull out of there. No matter how I tug, it's locked in. The keeper is holding it onto the sprockets. Also, down here, you have to have another bubble that is not too small, or else it'll scratch underneath here, but not too big to where it'll scratch over here. So again, it's the 2-finger rule where you're going to have to make sure, and it's almost a judgment call, like this is about 2.5, but it still looks perfectly fine for me. So now that was gate 4. The sound head itself, if you guys come on in here, we've got this big roller with a top small roller and a bottom small roller. What we'll do is we'll thread the film so that the film wraps around the big roller as it's going through the smaller rollers. And then, just for ease for tightening up the sound unit, you're going to slide in between the keeper and the sprocket with the film, and then over top of this for the tension. When you're tightening the sound unit, you're going to want to make sure that this film, which is currently loose, as you can see, it's kind of baggy, you're going to want to make sure that that's actually tight. And as a good reference point, if you come on in here, we've got, this has a little bit of a notch in it, if you can see that. And I know that you can't see it, but you're just going to have to trust me. There's a red line that's right here where my screwdriver is. And if you pull that to where it's tight, as I'll demonstrate here, you'll just pull up that slack. And you don't want it super tight. As you can see, if you go super tight, it's going to start bending these rollers out of shape. So if you see that, okay, you don't want that. You just want it tight enough to where this film and this film right here, they're not going to be loose. And a good way to tell if you've got it tight is if you let go without putting that keeper down. Is the film staying in there? And if the answer is yes, that means that it's tight enough. If the answer is no, you're going to want to tighten it up a little bit. But since the film is staying in there, I'm just going to lower that keeper to lock it all into place. Now for the fail-safe, we have wrapped underneath the sprockets over top of this roller to go right in between the main roller and the keeper for the fail-safe. Now there are 2 fail-safe arms. There's one in the back that you can see me moving now, and then there's one in the front. You actually have to go underneath both of them and on top of that roller, so that when the film gets pulled tight, see how both of them rose right there? When they drop, the film shuts off. When they raise, the film will go freely. Okay. Now that we've threaded through all of these gates, and we've threaded through our sound head, and we've threaded through our fail-safe, we're going to come up and we are going to finish by threading up the DTS sound head right here. Because you don't want your film just looking like this. It's got to be in, see how it just comes right out, and it can scratch on all of this, the metal workings of here. And it doesn't, you want it to come on this roller square. As you can see, it's not square, it's tilted a little bit. So we'll take our film, and just like the other sound head, you've got a giant roller here with 2 smaller keeper rollers there. So we'll thread in between the keeper rollers and the bigger roller, just like that. And you're just going to want to make sure that it is in there correctly. This roller is also like every other roller where it's got this lip, as you can see where my thumb is. It's got this little bit of a lip so that the film doesn't, so it sits in there nicely. And then you've got a nice uniform. It's all squared up as it's going through this projector part. Okay, it's all squared up. And then what we'll go over to the other side, and we will turn on the rewind for the plotter unit so that it'll pick up both of these fail-safes, which then will conclude our threading. Now that we've got the film that came through, this part, as you probably were wondering, why did Lighthouse Killer leave these rollers untouched? And that's because this is a giant swing arm that actually has a switch on this side of it, to where when it goes up and down, it controls how much power it's giving to the platter, the whole platter unit, the brain, and the take-up motor. If it's all the way down, nothing will work. If it's all the way up, nothing will work. And then it's varying degrees actually from top to bottom, of off to slow to medium to fast to very fast, and then it just shuts off. So with it still locked into its bottom, into the bottom hole that's here, now taking the slack of the film that we've already threaded, we will thread through, and it really, you're going to go over, under, and then it goes all the way up to that top roller, then all the way back down that we've already threaded in the pre-threading, going through all the rollers, to our bottom platter. Now at this point, you can either just turn it on rewind and watch the film get taken up by itself, or you could actually manually roll it up. Now what you want to make sure that you do is you're going to want to pull this little stub here, or else you're going to really stretch your film out. So I've pulled it. This is going to be free moving. I'll actually just turn on rewind so you can see what I mean. But you want your hand as a brake on the platter unit, because you don't want this part to slam up on top here if you don't break it. So turn on rewind, and right there, you have successfully threaded your first projector. Congratulations to you.